What's up Wellbeing, der HR-Podcast für eine gesunde Unternehmenskultur und erfolgreiche New Work-Strategien. Warm-up.
Globale Teams arbeiten heute zusammen, ohne sich täglich zu sehen. Unterschiedliche Kulturen, Länder und Arbeitsmodelle bringen ganz eigene Erwartungen an Arbeit, Pausen und Wohlbefinden mit sich. Gleichzeitig wünschen sich Unternehmen überall dasselbe: starke Mitarbeitende, echte Verbundenheit und eine Arbeitskultur, die langfristig gesund bleibt. Doch wie gelingt es, Wellbeing-Programme zu gestalten, die wirklich alle erreichen, unabhängig von Standort, Kultur oder persönlichem Hintergrund? Damit herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Folge von What's up Wellbeing, dem Podcast über moderne Arbeitskultur, Wohlbefinden und echte Verbundenheit. Ich bin eure Host, Sandra Strauß, und freue mich sehr, dass ihr heute wieder dabei seid. Und heute darf ich einen ganz besonderen Gast begrüßen: César Carvalho, Gründer und CEO von Wellhub. César hat Wellhub von einem Startup zu einem globalen Player im Bereich Corporate Wellbeing aufgebaut. Und gemeinsam mit Urban Sports Club gestaltet er heute mit, wie Wohlbefinden international gedacht und gelebt werden kann. In dieser Folge sprechen wir darüber, wie globale Wellbeing-Programme wirklich funktionieren, wie kulturelle Unterschiede berücksichtigt werden und welche Learnings HR-Teams aus der Praxis eines internationalen Unternehmens ziehen können. César, schön, dass du heute da bist. Good morning, César.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Sandra.
It's a pleasure to have you here in our podcast. And maybe to our audience, why am I talking in English today? This is a German podcast, but we have a very special guest today, César, the founder, CEO of Wellhub, and it's really a pleasure to have you here. No worries, we'll stick to our typical flow of the podcast. And as always, I'd like to start with a very short personal check-in, because at What's Up Wellbeing, we believe well-being is not just an idea, it's something we can really experience daily. And my question to you is, it's still early morning, I know, but is there something you have done for your personal well-being today already?
Yeah, I haven't done much today. As you shared, I live in the US and I'm here in Germany visiting the team. But one habit I try to always have is to stay in my original time zone. So I always try to wake up late and I go to bed really late so I don't adjust the clock on my body. So this morning, I didn't do my traditional workout. I just had a nice coffee and a conversation with, my coworkers who were there at the hotel with me. I'm hoping to do that workout after the podcast. So
nice.
Then I'll catch up.
Nice. I went, as always, before the podcast to one of my beloved studios for a beloved strengths class, and I can really feel it that I'm here very energized. And I think I want to add, we had dinner last night as well, and coming together with the colleagues, just sitting and talking always gives me such a great feeling. So I need to mention those two. And I think we should pay more attention sometimes on our social well-being as well, and coming together and just having a good time together.
Yeah, and by the way, I feel the energy.
Yeah.
So let's go.
Nice.
Workout.
Have you seen somewhere well-being enabled today through maybe environment, routines, or even tools or programs that really help people make healthier choices at work?
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this space. Many companies are investing in well-being for the first time, and I'm noticing many executives, and it's starting from the top. CEOs already changing their routines, CHROs already changing their routines, making sure that they're prioritizing well-being for themselves. And to me, the biggest opportunity is how can these leaders make their companies provide to everyone else in their organizations the same level of access, resources, services that those C-level executives have.
Yeah.
Because well-being shouldn't be a privilege, should be something that only few people in organizations have access to. The results are there. Everyone knows about it. No one disputes, and everyone should have access to well-being.
Yeah, I love that. And I really like the flow of doing together with the team, right? Yeah. Work out together whenever it's suitable for you, and it really makes a difference.
One thing is, in the past, people used to go for drinking together. We normally schedule a lot of social activities around meals. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. But what we're going to see more and more is employees doing wellness hours together instead of a happy hour together. And that will build community, that will build strong relationships at work. And on top of that, will create healthier habits between employees, leaders in every single organization. And there's no better example than the example that a CEO can set for the rest of the organization. And if the CEO prioritizes their own well-being, everyone else in the company will, one, know that that could be a good choice for them as well, and that they have a license to do the same because the leaders of the organization are also doing it.
Mm-hmm. Like that a lot. You've built Wellhub around a very clear belief: well-being should be accessible for everyone and not just a privilege or something which is like maybe nice to have. And you mentioned this just earlier as well. Looking back at your journey from your early career to building a global company today, when did this belief really come true that well-being is a non-negotiable?
Yeah, it was in the early days of my professional journey. I had the idea of starting Wellhub when I was doing my MBA in the US. And prior to the MBA, I worked in management consulting. And I was changing the clients I served all the time, was working long hours, had a very difficult time prioritizing physical activity, sleep, that were things that had been very important for me during my entire life. And one thing I realized later was that at the end of my journey in management consulting, I was desperate to leave. I wanted something new, and I thought what was wrong was my work and my motivations. But in fact, I was close to burning out. I was checking into hotels, flights, traveling every single week, but I wasn't checking in with my own well-being. I wasn't playing tennis that I love to play, and I wasn't visiting the gyms and studios. And at some point in time, I had 3 memberships that were unused for weeks, and later I realized that, I loved what I was doing. I loved the diversity of topics I, had exposure to. I loved working with different leaders in different projects all the time. And it was that well-being part that was missing. And this is why I think starting Wellhub, scaling it to all these countries has been the mission of my life, because people should not be burned out at their work. They should be more resilient. And if we do that, we're going to build better companies.
Mm-hmm. How has this experience shaped the decisions you take today as a founder and how you lead your own people in this global business?
Yeah, on the decisions as a founder, I truly believe that talent needs to be treated like long-term professional athletes. We're not here to use people for just one season and have them go. We want people to perform, to grow, to stay for the long run. And that journey, especially in a startup growing really fast, will have ups and downs. And one of the most important traits every single employee needs to have is resilience, to be able to face the ups and downs, to face the challenges we're all going to see and we're all going to face. And to me, having a great state of well-being, it's a requirement for those long-term athletes to perform well at work. Every single tennis player who has had a long career, they talk about the importance of recovery, the importance about preparation, so that when you need to execute your work, you're at your best. And how the lack of it would lead to short-term careers. So I'm betting long-term in people. We're providing Wellhub and great well-being to every single employee that we have. We have 98% of the employees signed up, and more than 60% of them using Wellhub every single week. We do our corporate events around physical activity. We include healthy habits in everything that we do. And I believe this is one of the key sources of our success.
I'd be interested to hear a bit more about those healthy habits. I get a lot of questions about this. Maybe you can share a bit, how do those healthy habits at Wellhub look like?
Yeah. So for an example, every time we get together with our team, when we're discussing the plans for the following year, we're doing integration activities, we always have 3 or 4 options for people to exercise, and people know that their coworkers could be using one of the 4. Why it's important to have options? Because people well-being is like their fingerprint. Everyone has their own. Some people like yoga, some people like Pilates, some people like strength training like you do, others like high-intensity training or tennis like I do. It's really important to have options so people can choose what works best for them, and they have the flexibility to go. The other thing is to center celebrations around important milestones related to well-being. For us, number of check-ins done in our platform by our subscribers is a really important metric. And when we hit 1 billion check-ins in our network, we had a big celebration, but that celebration was around visiting our most used partners, most loved partners, so that the employees had a taste for it as well. Every time we have a new corporate client and there's an opportunity to organize an event to bring well-being to that client, we love taking our employees to those clients so that they feel, how a corporate client benefits from having a launch event in which, the employees hear about Wellhub as well. So it's about including that in every single routine. And maybe just to close the loop on that part, it's also about permitting and giving flexibility to the employees to include well-being the way that it best works for them during a given day. So I love when employees take a 30 minutes break in the middle of the day to do a meditation session, or when employees choose to do their workouts during lunch, for example, and come back fully energized after doing a 45 minutes class, for example. We're not about having prescribed formulas or having a paternalistic approach in which we're telling people what they have to do. We're all about empowering people to do what works best for them, treating them as adults and the owners of their own well-being, the owners of their own career going forward.
Nice. Thanks for sharing. As Wellhub grew internationally, you've entered very different cultural, legal, organizational contexts. If you think about it, what surprised you the most when you started scaling well-being across countries? And how did that change the way you think about leadership and HR at a global level?
Yeah. So I'm very happy that Wellhub is now in 18 countries and that we keep growing the number of countries. I love that we have teams in all of these places. And, a big learn for me was that, as a leader, a manager of people, you need to be very aware of the cultural differences between, global employees. The communication style might be different. How people like to receive feedback might be different. Even the practices around, work-life well-being, how do you separate life and work? But what surprised me the most was that when it comes to well-being specifically, and the problem we're trying to solve, to get people active, to get people at a great state of well-being, the problem is the same, and the ways to solve for those problems, the solutions are the same as well. And it's all about empowering people to make the right decisions for themselves, providing them with access and with good examples in the leaders of organizations. So I guess people have this perception that every country is different, what well-being is changes from country to country. Part of it is true, but the needs behind what people need to solve and the problems people are trying to solve are the same everywhere. Everyone wants to live a healthier life. Every CHRO, every head of human resources wants their employees to be more active because they know those employees will make better decisions, will be more resilient every single day, and they know that healthier and happier employees will build better companies.
Mm-hmm. You know what I like so much about it? It's almost like a universal language because if you can engage with anyone, everywhere, anytime, start a conversation around well-being you have never met before. And I promise you will talk about at least 30 minutes or 20 minutes because you can talk about it. And I think this is the beauty of well-being on a global level because it connects people to the same purpose.
Yeah. And health is the universal language.
Absolutely.
Everyone wants to talk about it,
Yeah.
and to me, it's a trend that has always been there, and it's only accelerating with all these changes that we're seeing in the world. Work is more hybrid now than it was in the past, but there was a trend already happening. There's a trend around flexibility and allowing people to balance, life and work in a more optimal way. A lot of that will continue in my mind.
And I would say well-being is here to stay.
100%. It's becoming a business strategy. Companies that have better employee well-being not only are going to have more talent, they're going to be able to attract more talent and also retain better talent. But there are many studies now showing that their stock will perform better and that the companies are going to be more valuable over time. Yeah. I have a big prediction that well-being is going to become a board level KPI, just like ESG is for so many companies, and board members are going to care a lot about the state of well-being of their employees, because if they don't, it's going to become a liability and will hurt the company a lot.
Yeah. When it comes to well-being at work, there's one quote which is mentioned quite a lot, which is what gets funded gets measured and what gets felt gets used.
Yeah.
From your experience, what actually makes well-being feel real for employees and not like maybe any other initiative, but something they genuinely engage with?
Yeah. So I think the biggest problem with legacy or traditional benefits is that there are a lot of good intentions when you're setting them up, but 12 months after launch, less than 4% of the employees are using them on every single month. Yeah. And that's true for well-being benefits, but for many other benefits as well, mental health and etc. And the biggest problem with those benefits is that they either cost the company too much, or they deliver too little value for the employees, or they serve a very small percentage of all the employees because it's potentially a niche solution that won't be used by everyone. But the last and most important is that those legacy benefits, they don't change behavior. And what we need is help companies provide a benefit that is changing the behaviors of the employees for the better. And what is a behavior change? Is an employee that, is not active, is not exercising, is not finding time or money, or, a tool that will allow them to discover a new activity to love. And suddenly, that's not a problem anymore. And those people try. And once they try an activity, they find something they really like. They find something that they can go with their family members or coworkers, and suddenly they're building a community around it. And well-being becomes this third space away from home and work where they're building a new community. And to me, the benefits that are going to stick and get real utilization are those that get a high percentage of employees using the benefit every single month. And I hate when benefits companies are measuring enrollment rate, engagement on a yearly basis. It needs to be measured on a monthly basis, if possible, on a weekly basis. What's the percentage of my employees that are using partners this week, that are visiting gyms and studios, that are taking benefit of this benefit? And I'm so proud that we have a lot of companies with more than 50% of their employees using Wellhub every single month.
This is amazing.
That has to be the metric of success.
Absolutely.
That has to be the metric that CEOs, CFOs are all pursuing, because that change in behavior is what justifies the investment. Companies don't want to invest just that so that the people who are running marathons now pay less. They need to invest to get everyone else who is not using a gym or studio, who's not active, to start the journey of physical activity and well-being.
Yeah, and I think it makes it an easy access, right, for people who have really never taken care of it. And if all of a sudden your colleagues start talking about it, you don't want to be left out. So you start become curious and start to explore yourself.
Companies, they have three amazing assets. They can communicate to all employees, because the employees are using the tools that the company provided. They're using a computer, or an email account. So companies can communicate. What you just mentioned, companies can create social context in which one employee, one area, one competition you started, some games you created influence the behavior of other people, and they can also influence the example set by leaders, the CEO, the CHRO, helps spread the message and help change the behavior as well of employees. So companies have a unique role to play in this game. They are the protagonists of the story. I feel there are many platforms that are serving as the enabler, but the ones running the show are the C-level executives of organizations.
Yeah, and you just mentioned them, CEO, CFO, and the CIHO. If you look at them, how should they take responsibility for well-being, that it doesn't get stuck between good intentions, budget conversations, and then finally execution?
For sure. Each one of them have a very specific and important role to play. No one knows the employees better than the CHRO. So they come in with the knowledge of what works for my employees and what type of platform do I want to bring to maximize utilization. The CFO has to come and ask about the ROI of this solution. Like, is this benefit going to be used? Is the value that my employees are going to get from this way higher than the investment we're making? Mm-hmm. And what are the benefits we're going to get as a company? And they're here to ask about it, but also to help calculate and measure this. Mm-hmm. Because the CFOs are really concerned about absenteeism and other potential impacts that every single company has. And then for me, the CEO has the main role of being the role model for every single employee. Mm-hmm. To model the behavior that should be expected and permitted to everyone else. Mm-hmm. And a message to CEOs here, as a CEO of a company myself, it's very easy for you as a CEO to underestimate the importance of access to your employees. Mm-hmm. Because for CEOs, it could be easy to get 2 different gym memberships, a personal trainer, a nutritionist to support you, a community to be around you. You can have some gym equipment at home. It would work. You're staying at hotels that have nice gyms as well when you travel. So for you, it's very easy to say, no one else needs it, and overlook the impact it's going to have on everyone else. Mm-hmm. And that blind spot is one that needs to be filled. CEOs need to know that the well-being of their employees is a fraction of the quality of well-being that CEOs have, and that their perception of the quality of the well-being of the company is normally higher, that the well-being is better than it actually is. Mm-hmm. And it's up to us to spread this message so that we reduce this blind spot.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And still, I get a lot of questions from my networks, the HROs. My CEO, my CFO, I'm not able to convince them. They just look into it from a number perspective. They're not interested in well-being themselves. They feel, I'm okay. Why should the company support me in any shape or form? Is there one tip or hint you would give to the HR community which helps a lot in opening the awareness of CFOs and CEOs that there is something that they're going in a trap, basically?
Yeah, I would say 2 tips. And one is related to the brain, the other, the heart.
Nice.
The related to the brain is data, benchmarks of other companies of a similar size in the similar location, of how many employees started using a well-being benefit, and started using, Wellhub, for example. In Munich, there's this company with 30% of the employees using. Look at participation rates over the past 12 months. And we normally work with a lot of clients sharing those benchmarks and putting them in contact with other companies that have had those examples as well. There are many cases in our network of us being able to work with the same company in other countries. So that data can be made available exactly for the same employees in other markets in the case of a global multinational company. That's the brain. Mm-hmm. The heart are the stories of people that had well-being change their lives. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure every single organization has a story like that, of someone that, was diagnosed with a disease or had a life-changing moment and suddenly started exercising, start going to different gyms and studios, and then bringing the case that if we implement a benefit like this won't be an isolated story. We're going to have hundreds of other stories like this. And that will create a culture in which more people are going to be excited about well-being. More people are going to stay here for the long run. We're not going to have as many sick leaves and people missing days of work. And we're not going to lose talent because they just felt it was the end of the road when the road was still here and there was a big runway for them to develop.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing. You have been very clear that well-being shouldn't be treated as a perk. It needs to work at scale, across roles, locations, and should work for every different employee reality as well. Why is working with a global platform like Wellhub, together with local networks like Urban Sports Club, such a game changer for companies?
Yeah, I think the most important part is our ability to get a very large percentage of every single one of our clients engaged with well-being. We want more employees in the same company engaged with well-being. And I think the combination between Urban Sports Club and Wellhub will bring that and is already doing that for many clients across Europe. The first reason is because Urban Sports Club has an amazing network of partners in the most important cities around Germany and Europe, Wellhub as well. And what we're doing is the combination of both networks. So every single company, regardless of the platform, is having access to the best partners of the combined entity. The other part is technology. We have worked across multiple countries, the US, Latin America, on building a technology platform that is super focused on making sure companies communicate as much as they can, and they can cater to the different preferences of every single employee. So our recommendation engines of partners, the emails that companies trigger to their employees, and the campaigns we create maximize for enrollment. That the last part is for wellness gyms, studios in each one of these countries. The technology we have helps them maximize the amount of money they get from every visit we bring. We're seeing several gyms and studios changing, their plan allocation based on the different time of the day so that they get paid more or they get more members every single time someone comes to them.
Perfect match.
Perfect match. Can't wait for what's next.
Yeah.
The early results have been impressive and I'm super excited about the future.
Yeah. Wellhub recently published its work-life well-being report. When you specifically look at Germany, some patterns stood out. In Germany, there is a high awareness around well-being, but also clear gaps when it comes to stress levels, mental load, and actually using the benefits that are already available. From your point of view, what is the most important learning from the German data that HR leaders should not ignore any longer?
Yeah, they should never ignore that utilization is king. Utilization beats everything else. Awareness alone doesn't change behavior. And awareness won't drive 50, 60% of the employees to sign up to the benefit. And if you don't have a very high utilization, you're always going to be on this constant loop of communicating more. And that to me is the problem, as I said, with legacy solutions that were designed to be implemented very fast, designed to be a check-the-box solution saying, we offer something to the employees. And those employees won't cut it anymore. Those benefits won't make it anymore. The new generation, especially Gen Z employees who are just starting to work, they're clearly seeing the difference between companies that treat well-being as an integral part of their strategy versus the companies that are just checking the box. And that distinction is becoming more and more clear. So staying on the perk side won't work.
Mm-hmm. When the HR leaders look at the global well-being data like this, what is the most important question they should ask themselves before implementing a solution or before taking action?
Yeah, to me, it centers also around utilization. What is the solution my employees are going to get? Are they going to have to pay a higher price every time they want to use studio A, B, or C? Or is this all included? What are the options that my employees are going to have as part of this benefit? Is this a benefit that if we were not investing ourselves, would they want to have access? Would my employees want to have access to this product anyways? And if the answer is not high, is not yes, they should not implement this benefit. They should do more research, look at other cases of companies that have had higher success with enrollment rate of the employees, and then focus their time and energy in implementing those benefits. I think with the pandemic, a lot of companies, for the lack of a better solution, tried a lot of different point solutions that solved for very specific use cases. And they built this network of vendors for well-being that became hard to communicate.
Yes, agree.
Each one of them being a different app, with a different login method, with a different price to the employees. And, that's where, low utilization comes from as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing more and more companies shifting from all these individual solutions for some specific use cases to an unified platform, a unified hub that has everything that the employees need for well-being. Mm-hmm. And by the way, well-being is by definition holistic. Mm-hmm. It's not only about physical activity, it's about sleeping well, it's about mindfulness, it's about eating healthy as well. And what we see is when those things are integrated, they work in a virtual cycle. Mm-hmm. The fact that you exercised will make you eat better and will help you with your sleep as well. And if you slept well that night, you're going to have more energy for the next day to go and repeat it again. Mm-hmm. So there is a benefit in having all of those services in a single platform, a benefit for the employees, a benefit for the company because they reduce the number of vendors they work with as well. And there's a virtual cycle when the employees engage with a single platform as well.
Mm-hmm. And I would add one question as well to the HR leaders, which is, what would happen if I don't take any action?
Exactly. And the cost of that is becoming more and more expensive. And I'm not only talking about, employees missing days of work because they're less resilient, more burnt out. I'm talking about all the future employees you will want to hire, you will want to bring to your company, but that are going to prioritize a company that truly cares for them. Mm-hmm. And if you don't offer a well-being solution that's truly good, that has a really high utilization, you're not going to be perceived as a company that cares.
If you think about the next 3 to 5 years, where do you see Wellhub going, not just as a company, but as a category?
Yeah, look, I think well-being in general will become a standard benefit, a mandatory benefit, I would dare to say, that every single company has to offer to their employees. And I think the bar won't be just offering something, because the employees are going to be able to look through the offering and realize whether or not companies really mean it. So I think the bar will actually move from just offering to what is the percentage of your employees that are actually using whatever you're offering. Mm-hmm. And I think if that number is not 50%, it's not going to be enough. Mm-hmm. And I'm very excited about that because well-being should be for everyone. And I'm constantly thinking every single day, how can we turn every single company, doesn't matter the sector, doesn't matter if it's a logistics company, a retailer, a manufacturing industry, or a services company. We want every single one of their employees engaged with well-being every single day. We check our social media every day. We check our messaging apps every single day. How come we're not checking in with our own well-being every single day? So I think it's going to happen faster than what people think. 3 to 5 years seems reasonable for it to become mainstream and for people to change behaviors. And I again say that companies have a very big role to play. Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to do it because it is in their best interest to do so, because they stand to gain a lot from it if they gain. But also, I think the governments, boards of large organizations, they're going to realize that as well. And they're going to support and they're going to push and they're going to incentivize companies that have this strategy because everybody wins when they do.
You're hinting it in this direction already a bit, but is there one bold shift corporate well-being hasn't made yet, and what you foresee might happen? Let's be bold here. Where is well-being going to?
I believe corporate well-being will become a standard that every single company will have to offer to their employees. And if they're not serious about it, the employees are going to look through it. And a great metric for separating companies that are really serious about it is the percentage of employees that are actually using the product every single month. It has to be 50% of all the employees.
So basically you're saying it's mandatory for all companies, government supported, maybe with tax deduction or maybe investments into it. And secondly, engagement rates.
Yeah, I don't
more
know
than
about
50%.
I don't know about all the support. Like some governments might choose to do, some don't. But I deeply believe it is already in the best interest of companies to do it. So I think shareholders will push, activist investors will push for it. If not, the bill is going to be very expensive. And the market's clearly going to separate companies that have a great state of well-being to companies that are just burning people out and churning talent every single month.
We already come to the last question, and we always end with a section which is called hacks and flops.
Hacks and flops.
Is there one moment from your own personal well-being journey that didn't go as planned? And are you open to share it here?
Sure. It's a funny one. I use a lot our partners. I exercise almost every single day. And I try to do it when I'm home, also when I'm traveling, using our international check-in feature, allowing subscribers to go to gyms and studios everywhere they want. This day, I had never done yoga. And I was invited by some of our employees to go to a hot yoga class. And I didn't know what to expect. And normally, I don't tell who I am. Partners don't know I'm the founder and CEO of Wellhub. I just joined as a regular member. But this time they told the instructor that I was the CEO of Wellhub. And the instructor was expecting that, I was kind of a yoga expert, put me in front of the class and told everyone else to look at me. But it was my first yoga class. And thanks God, it was a little dark. And everyone could notice, I was doing terrible at the different positions and poses of yoga. But in the end, it was very fun. And we all laughed about it at the end. And it's something I try to do from time to time. Encourage people to try something new. You never know if you're going to fall in love for a new activity or a new group of people or a new instructor. And I just find it amazing to have so many platforms that help you discover new things. And I guess, it's a message for everyone. If you haven't found something you love yet, keep trying because there's something for everyone.
Thank you very much, César. I could have gone on for another hour or so, but thank you so much. This was very, very nice to talk to you today.
No, thank you for having me again, Sandra. Good luck with the other episodes.
Thank you.
Cool down.
Wir haben heute gesehen, wie Wohlbefinden Menschen über Länder, Kulturen und Arbeitsmodelle hinweg verbinden kann. Mich interessiert sehr, wie euch diese Folge gefallen hat. Schreibt uns gerne an podcast@urbansportsclub.com oder kommentiert direkt bei Spotify. Danke fürs Zuhören und bis zur nächsten Folge von What's Up Wellbeing.